once again from the driver's seat of my 1984 Volkswagen Vanagon. It's Lon from the parking lot of Sprouts, and it's so cold. I mean, it froze. There was you could ice skate on the bird bath this morning if you had tiny enough skates. This is the second parking lot of the morning. I have in my hand the famous puppy. This is my puppy. It's like a bean bag, only it's filled with rice. And before we left this morning, we put it in the microwave for about 144 seconds. And then put it in this thermal bag so I could have it on my lap, because my car doesn't have any heating or air conditioning. I mean, that's for rich folks. Anyway, I'm here. Today is the 13th of December, and starting the 13th of December, a new decan of Sagittarius is happening, and I'm not going to talk about the decans and Sagittarius and stuff, but it just happens to be from now till the 21st, that last decan period, which is pretty difficult. On the tarot, let's see here. On the tarot, it's the 10 of Wands, and which is called oppression, and it's Saturn in Sagittarius, which doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing. And usually the 10s in the small cards are pretty good cards. Usually of course, aces are supercharged important cards of their suit and element. And the sixes, almost all the sixes are great. And the twos are great, and the threes are great. Even the three of swords is really great. And the sixes, like I say, are great. And the nines are great, right? All the balanced kind of things are the supernal ones. And usually the 10s are pretty damn good too. But the 10 of Wands is really difficult. You got to feel sorry for the 10 of Wands. Now, the Wands are the fire element, or assigned to the Yod of Yod He Vav He, which, if we're going to look at things in a linear way and see things, the four suits, as four trees of life, one on top of the other, the Wands would be the top tree. But because it's the top tree and the initial tree, and the one assigned to the initial Yod, the father of Yod He Vav He, the Wands felt pretty damn privileged. As a matter of fact, at the beginning of the creation cycle, if you want to look at things that way, the Wands have nothing to compare themselves with. They seem like the only game in town. So here's this whole universe, self-contained, all potentiality, all possible possibilities are actually formulating and getting to know themselves in Wands. And all of a sudden, 10 of Wands is at the very bottom. And the 10 of Wands looks around and says, well, I got 9 other Wand brothers and sisters, okay? I'm the last wand. What if this is it? What if I'm the end of existence? Wands don't know, especially at that lower level of wand intelligence, doesn't know that if it allows its trickle down essence, if it just relax, it would know it's going to drip down into the next lower tree of life. But Wands doesn't know that there's a next lower tree of life. Wands thinks, this is it, oh no! And it's the Wands are in the Ten of Wands is in the same position as a mystic that it has gotten to the point of where they need to cross an abyss of some kind. They need to relinquish all of the old false notions of itself. They have to get rid of that to transcend, to go in to be received into the next vibratory level. And the Ten of Wands is like the ego that refuses to give up everything it always thought was self. And said, no, it's me. Okay, it grasps, no, I don't want to get rid of me. And that includes me, my good things, and me, my bad things. My habits, my tendencies. Your Ten of Wands is in a crisis of a mystical crisis, and it tries to clutch, and it feels like it's in a prison from which it'll never escape. That's why I've got my 10 Wands as prison bars that are only illusionarily. You could just push that door right open. But anyway, why am I telling you this? Well, not only that, because today's the first day of that decan, but I wanted to talk about, there's demons that go with that. Please excuse my wandering mind there. And I was going to see, what Goetic spirit or spirits are associated with the Ten of Wands, and I was going to try to say something about Goetic spirits. But there are two spirits that are at least assigned to the last decan of Sagittarius, one for the day and one for the night. Renove, number 27. He appears in the form of a monster and teaches the art of rhetoric very well. And number 63, Andras. And they're both bad. Well, Renove is kind of a cool guy. Gives good servants and teaches the art of rhetoric and knowledge of tongues and friends and foes. But Andras is really a badass. Okay, so it got me thinking, and I want to share two things about Goetic spirits and about spirits in general. And it's a couple little tidbits that are buried in the text, my text, The Key to Solomon's Key. And in keeping with yesterday's thing, James Wasserman wrote a wonderful introduction to this book. But anyway, I'm going to read from two little sections, and then I'm going to call it a day. Uh, I've got a section called Seven Secrets of Solomon, or what it takes to be inwardly to be a Goetic magician or a Solomonic magician. And this is Solomon's secret number 5. Deity, archangels, angels, intelligences, spirits, demons, and you and I are personifications of a hierarchy of consciousness. That's the secret. Deity, or the singularity of consciousness, is obviously at the top of the hierarchy of consciousness. The supreme consciousness, the supreme being, if you will. It's what we mean when we say all creation is play in the mind of God. Next, lower in the hierarchy, is a descending array of forces and energies that are more specialized envoys of intelligence in the mind of God. We could view them as units or aspects of natural forces and laws. The ancients personified them as spiritual beings, calling them archangels, angels, and intelligences. We don't actually see these forces or entities, but we're certainly aware of how they affect the world around us. For example, we could personify the law of gravity, and you've heard this one before. I use this analogy a lot. We could personify the law of gravity as a great archangel. Now, there's usually they assign archangels in 4s, representing the cardinal directions, north, south, east, and west, fire, water, air, earth, yod, he, and vav, he, wands, cups, swords, discs. There's usually 4 archangels. And broadly speaking, there are 4 fundamental forces in nature. The weak force, the strong force, electromagnetic force, and the force of gravity. And you could easily see that gravity would be assigned to earth and electromagnetism to water, and just by their characteristics. The strong force, I think, would be air, and the weak force would be fire. I believe I have that correct. So it goes to reason, or it stands to reason is the way to say that, that there be 4 great archangels. And at the top of the pecking order would be these 4 fundamental forces of nature. For example, we could personify the law of gravity as a great archangel. We could give this archangel a name, Gravitael. Gravitael is a spiritual being with huge duties and responsibilities in the universe. As an archangel, it embodies all that is gravitational. We see the work of gravity manifest in almost infinite ways. The tugging of the tidal moon, the falling of a raindrop, the sagging of a breast, the plummeting of a meteor. These specific expressions of gravity could be viewed as angels, Tagael, Faliel, Sagael, Plumetael, all working under the authority of the archangel Gravitael. Now, they all operate on automatic pilot. Okay, they're already doing their thing. And they're on automatic pilot according to their own laws. As magicians, okay, we can't directly control them. Sorry, we can't make plummet AL do anything but its plummet duties, okay? Or sag AL, as much as we would try to attempt that. Okay. As magicians, we can't directly control them, but what we do is seek to exploit their powers and energies to our own advantage. You know, the idea that the name on the magician card in the tarot is often called the juggler. He can't create, he can't destroy, but boy, can that guy juggle. And a magician juggles the forces that are operating on automatic pilot, juggles them in such a way as to be advantageous to the will of the magician. Gravity AL and his angels are responsible for organizing and directing all the work that takes place on the next lower level of consciousness, where the process of creating, sustaining, and destroying the material universe takes place. This is the world most of us consider objective reality. Magicians, however, have a more colorful name: the infernal regions. If you can suffer one more metaphoric excursion, let's look at God as the owner, the boss of a company, a cosmic company. Archangels, angels, and intelligences are middle management. The workers themselves are spirits and demons that dwell on the factory floor, the lowest level of consciousness. These workers do all the heavy lifting in the universe, and they're a pretty rough bunch. After all, they're not only the cosmic construction crew, they're the cosmic wrecking crew too. This far down the scale of consciousness, the purity of the upper levels has become fragmented and disorganized. If this area is not consciously directed by middle management, these broken pieces of the mind of God will, like brutish and restless mob of unemployed and unsupervised zombie workmen, discharge their awesome energy in chaotic and destructive ways. And when that is in your own psychic nature, they sort of gush like burning Drano through your soul, down avenues of the least resistance. Anyway, on the other hand, once controlled by a higher intelligence, they become united in service to the company. If they continue to behave themselves, they eventually are promoted to middle management themselves. The characters in a Masonic story of Solomon personifies this spectrum of consciousness. God at the top, the great architect of the universe. Solomon and his fellow Grand Masters, King Hiram of Tyre and Hiram Abiff, in the middle. And at the bottom, the workmen of the temple. The masters or overseers of the work, fellow craft or hewers of on the mountains and in the quarries, and entered apprentices or bearers of burden. If the entered apprentice worked diligently, he could be expected to be advanced to fellow craft, etc. Okay, hang on a second. I don't know if I'm going to go much further on that. Yeah, I will. Once in place and functioning, this scenario paints a picture of a universe in balance, a spiritual utopia where everyone is laboring successfully under the direction and supervision to raise themselves and their inferiors to the next higher level. And I quote right from Masonic ritual itself that are talking about this order of workmen. Quote, "These were all so classed and arranged by the wisdom of Solomon that neither envy, discord, nor confusion was suffered to interrupt or disturb the peace and good fellowship which prevailed among the workmen." Unquote. But where do I fit in this cosmic company of consciousness? It depends upon our present level of consciousness, where it positions us. In our unenlightened state, we've convinced ourselves that we're the infernal creatures living and dying on the factory floor. Once we open our eyes, however, we discover that we are relatively high in the hierarchy of spiritual beings. In fact, we are, each of us, the most important member of the middle management team, envied by the angels and feared by the spirits and demons. We are Solomon. Okay, I wanted to read that in tandem to the question and answer, common questions. Let's see, 144. Well, question number one, the quick answer is, do you actually expect me to believe this kind of magic works? No. I don't expect anyone to believe anything. Magic is a psychological art form, among other things. It's not a belief system, unless, of course, you consider the concept of cause and effect to be a belief system. I'm expecting, however, that you will withhold absolute judgment about the efficacy of such exercises until such time as you actually perform a Goetic evocation for yourself. I have on numerous occasions over the last 30 years evoked a number of spirits of the Goetia utilizing the basic formula outlined in the Lesser Key of Solomon, which is also included, at least in a manual form in this book. And I've taught others to do the same. If success is measured by whether or not the stated purpose of the exercise was regularly achieved, then my personal experience and reports from others with whom I've had personal contact lead me to affirm categorically that this kind of magic does indeed work. And here's my favorite, and this is what I'll close with today. Are the spirits real or imaginary? I can only offer my personal opinion based upon conclusions I have drawn as a result of my own experiences with this kind of exercise. And there are many very knowledgeable individuals who disagree with my assumptions. Some think I've taken the magic out of magic by overanalyzing the process and making things too psychological. Others think my views of the art aren't agnostic enough, that my views are naive and overly mystical and romantic. I offer no rebuttal to either of these charges other than to say spirits are as real as the powers they personify. To quote my literary alter ego, Rabbi Lamed Ben Clifford, The spirits are both real and imaginary. But most of us do not realize how real our imagination is. For example, and here comes the time of year we're in. For example, I don't believe in the existence of an objective, tangible entity who lives at the North Pole and flies around the world on Christmas Eve, delivering gifts to everyone. But I know for a fact that there is a real and magical spirit of mad generosity personified merrily in the minds of billions of people as Santa Claus. In fact, each year during the months when this spirit is at the zenith of its power to possess people, this subjective, intangible spirit is in a very real way responsible for the manifestation of an unimaginable number of material objects and immeasurable wealth and happiness. But beware. The same letters that spell Santa also spell Satan. This spirit also has a dark and evil side. When not properly understood, evoked, and controlled, he can be a cynical and destructive demon who during his icy season routinely brings gifts of family strife, suffocating debt, regret, depression, and suicide. There are those who agree with the great 20th century magician Aleister Crowley, who wrote in his introduction to the Goetia, "The spirits of the Goetia are portions of the human brain," unquote. Well, I'm not sure I altogether agree. Mr. Crowley certainly provides us with food for thought. How often have we heard that humans actually use only a tiny percentage of our brains? Who knows what godlike powers we could exercise if we use more of our brains? Imagine if we could divide that unused part of our brain into 72 sections, the 72 spirits of the Goetia. Each section a living representative of a specific and unique psychic or intellectual power we are presently not using. The attributes and powers of the individual spirits. We assign each of those sections a mythological name, Furfur or Orobos, and a symbol, a seal of the spirit that we can gaze upon during altered states of consciousness, induced by the rituals of preparation, the incense, babbling strings of incomprehensible words, etc., whereby we isolate, activate, and employ that section of the brain. Now, instead of thinking of the spirits as portions of physical brain tissue, it might be more accurate and just as practical to view them as portions of the subconscious mind, or just mind. As pioneers of quantum physics are suggesting and demonstrating, the influence of the mind transcends the tiny confines of the human cranium and operates on multiple dimensions, unencumbered by the limits of time and space. Tinkering with the subconscious mind is in a very real way tinkering with the cosmos. And since prehistoric times, people who've tinkered with their subconscious minds the most have been called magicians. And that's where I'm going to leave us thinking about Santa Claus this morning. My car windows are now fogging over with my zealous breath. My hot breath on the window. Anyway, until tomorrow, continue to be good to yourself and be good to each other. Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law. Love is the law. Love under will. Now I'm going to get my puppy out.